utilizing comics, that's right, to actually make money online. Today in this very first episode of its kind, alternative investments, I'm going to be showing you behind the scenes to how I utilize really nerdy stuff, collectibles, comics, trading cards, and this is something I've never done before, but I want to be able to show you how I utilize these assets that I never really talk about in this entire channel, such as watches, stuff that has really amazed me ever since I was a kid, especially comics and collectibles, and how I've used it to actually invest and make money. I'm a little bit excited and nervous at the same time about this because, as you know, if you've been following this channel, first of all, this is not a comic or a collection type of channel. This is a marketing channel. Who knows, it might totally bomb. But I wanted to do something that is really dear to me, and I think that I've never really shown this on social media. I've never really shown my collectibles. I've never shown my comics. I've never really talked about watches. I've not talked about my trading cards that I've collected. But these assets has made me a lot of money, in some cases way more than stocks and real estate. And some people say, like, why do I invest in these type of assets, and why not talk more about real estate and stocks and all of that. I've done a bit of those on this channel, but here's the truth. Real estate, stocks, and all these type of investments, they're all for adults, and I don't know if I've ever want to grow up. So this is a lot more exciting to me, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you behind the scenes to how I actually collect, how I've built up well-versed, 6 figures in collections, in my portfolio of collectibles, and how you can do it as well, even if this is all new to you. Okay, let's begin. So I'm going to share a few things that's on my screen over here and walk you through the entire game first of all. Okay, we're going to be rotating around collectibles, whether it's watches, whether it's cards. But in this series, I'm going to start off with comics because this is something I've collected ever since I was like 9, probably. And I'm going to show you how I got into it. Okay, so I'll show you a few things on my screen. And the first thing I'm going to walk you through is this first tab here is the first appearance of Groot. Okay, now if you ever watch Marvel comics, you'll know that Groot has been around, well, or rather is popularized because of Guardians of the Galaxy in the mid-2000s. But the truth is, this comic has been around since the 60s. You can see that the character first appeared in Tales to Astonish number 13, November 1960. And chances are it's older than all of us. It's older than you watching this video probably. And if you take a look at this comic right now, you'll see that this comic, the 7.5 grading, is sold, or rather is being sold on eBay right now at $17,500. Now, in the world of comic grading, which is over here, if it's a notable collection, the grade over here is all that matters. It's the thing that can really dictate the price. The price difference between a 9.8 and a 9.6 can be a world of difference. It can be 10 times different. Okay, so just this comic here alone at 7.5 is asking for $17,500. Now the question is anybody actually buying it? Now if you take a look at, there are a lot of sites that shows you the price movement, and if you take a look at this specific comic, the first appearance of Groot, you will see that the 7.5 right now, the fair market value is approximately $14,000. And if you take a look at the price movement of this comic in the last decade or so, let's take a look as we bring this chart up, and you'll see here's the moral of the story, right? You can see right now the fair market value is about $14,000. This based on transacted price. The last time a 7.5 that was sold at $16,500 in July 2022. But let's take a look at this, right? Before this movie was released, notice that just about 10 years-ish ago, the fair market value for this specific comic is $650. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but so this means that the price of this comics has 20x'd in the last 10 years. You tell me an asset, whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks. Well, stocks is probably a lot of hidden gems but the odds of something 20x going 2,000% in 10 years is, for most asset classes, is insane. Okay, And that's why I love this game. Okay, so the first principle that I utilize when it comes to comic investment is always this. It's always, how can I invest in an asset where the world doesn't know who this superhero or supervillain is just yet, okay? So the example, and I'm going to show you a few different examples of how I've amassed this entire portfolio and literally 20x the entire asset base based on this, okay? So this next example is the first appearance of Shang-Chi, okay? First appearance of Shang-Chi, 1973 at 9.8. And if I were to go to the next tab here, okay, you can see. So when was the Shang-Chi movie announced? Well, it was first announced back in like 2005, and then when there was some delays. And then Marvel first talked about making Shang-Chi like back in 2001. So it literally took Shang-Chi, 20 years, was in the works for 20 years. Now, again, these are the moments when prices of comics really spike. Number one, when the movie's announced, that's the first spike. Number two, the second spike is when the first trailer drops. That's when the second spike typically occurs. And the third spike is when the movie drops, and then when the movie is released, that's typically when it will reach its all-time high. Okay, and then it will typically dip and drop a little. Okay, now if you take a look at this Shang-Chi, okay, so this issue here at 9.8, you can see that for comics, there's usually two types of labels. Okay, blue means the standard. Gold or yellow means that it is signed. Okay, now gold typically fetches a little bit more if it's signed by the artist, if it's signed by Stan Lee. Okay, now you can see that at 9.8 for Shang-Chi, there's about 119 for the standard label and approximately 6 that is signed, which means this is one of the 6 in the world that is signed. Now, if you take a look at the price movement, again, you'll notice the same thing. It always happens. Now, I know it's a crazy claim, but the crazy claim is if you take a look at all these comics that has movies based upon them, the movement's always the same. Okay, you'll see that at its peak, this is when like the movies, the hype, the anticipation is all-time high, right? It's sold for. Now this transacted, okay, means it's actually sold for this price. September 2021 sold for 15,900. But you can see that, again, 10 years ago, this at 9.8, okay, sold price is $500. Are you starting to see a trend here? This is why, I'm going to make this bold claim up front. Like, when it comes to comics, if you follow just this one super principle, you can never lose money, okay? Now, there is a downside to this. The downside to comic investing, unlike other assets, okay, is that it's not as liquid. If I wanted to sell stocks, right, or wanted to sell crypto, I could sell the asset just like that and get the cash just like that. Now, there is a downside. The downside is, if I wanted to sell this Shang-Chi 9.8 at the market price right now, it is going to take a while. I need to put it up on eBay. I need to take a listing. I need to do the write-up. I need to send it somewhere. The buyer could be in UK. It could take 3 weeks before a buyer and I, come to an agreed price. So the downside to comics is its liquidity. But if you can be patient and you're not in a hurry to sell, so like for me, I'm a collector first, really. This is how you can never go wrong and how this will continue to appreciate on paper. Now, I know that if you're not a collector, it just doesn't make sense. You're probably thinking, who's paying, 15 grand for 30 pieces of paper, okay? Now, you need to step outside the box because maybe in future videos, I'll talk about cardboard and why pieces of cardboard can literally be worth 5 to 6 figures. And if you want to be able to see that video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If this is an interesting topic to you, like and subscribe. This is how you can support this channel. Again, I've never done these type of videos before. Might be a flop, we'll find out. Let me know in the comments if you want to be able to see more of it. But so based on this principle, okay, I'm going to be showing you more examples of how you can predict what are the type of comics you should be buying now, okay? So I think we've utilized a few different examples, right? You can see right now on eBay, right? People are asking 14,000. In fact, this is the only 9.8 that is being sold on eBay right now. And you can see the big difference between 9.8 and 9.0 is the world of difference. So if you're looking at this game thinking, but I don't have that kind of capital to fork out that amount, it's okay. Why? Because you don't have to play at the 9.8 level. You can literally start this game at the 5.0 level, at the 9.0 level. You can even play the game at the 0.5 level, okay? That's right, this comic over here is literally 0.5, and the reason for that is because page 12 of this comic is missing. And one of the reasons why I love this game is because it tells so much. It's like this comic's in 1963, Fantastic Four number 19, and this is the first appearance of Rama-Tut, which is a variation of Kang the Conqueror. And if you follow Marvel movies, you know that he's going to be one of the super villains in the future. So, like, based on this, the reason why I love this game is because the reason why it's a 0.5 is because somewhere between 1963 and today, a person didn't see the potential of this comic and probably cut out page number 12, which is a coupon code somewhere inside the comic, I'm guessing. And because of that, the price of this comic dropped significantly, right? The price of a 0.5 and a 9.0 could be potentially 50x difference, you know? So you don't have to play at 9.8. You know, I like collecting 9.8s, but I also like the other end of the spectrum because at 0.5, because it tells so much about the history, like to me, it's a mystery, like the person who owned it from 1963 till today, and the different hands it changed. So how can you do this to make money as an investment? But first of all, if you do decide to utilize this as an investment, I would say invest in things that interest you, right? Whether it's DC, whether it's Marvel, because if you love the movies, if you love that world, that fantasy world, it just becomes so much more exciting. Okay, so coming back to this, how can you do this? Okay, so for example, right now, as I'm shooting this video, Marvel Phase 4 literally has ended, okay? And Marvel Phase 5 is just about to begin. So what's my principle? My principle is I will never invest in comics where the superheroes are already known to the world. Okay, so if they're already popularized, if there's a movie created, if there's a series, to me, the all-time high is already achieved. Now, there is some exceptions to the rule. So for example, like X-Men, right? X-Men's famous, Wolverine, Professor X and all that. But to me, I know that they are going to be rebooting that series, 100%. And the prices are already high, right? But I do believe that it's going to go higher. Now, those type of comics, it's not going to give you the 20x returns. It's not going to give you the 50x returns. The 20 to 50x returns is when they're unknown, the world doesn't know who they are, and you go in before the world know who they are. Okay, so I'll give you some examples. So for example, Phase 4 over here, you can see that a lot of the comics that I bought from years ago is based on this principle, right? So for example, I've talked about Shang-Chi. Eternals, when it came out in 2021, this is the first appearance of Eternals, 1976 at 9.8. And the price of this comic also, compared to years ago, has at least 5x. Now, how much it goes up can also be determined based on how good or bad the movie was. So in my mind, Eternals, they are this huge A-list, characters and actors in there, and I thought it was going to be a huge hit. I was wrong. You're not going to always hit a home run, but you can't lose either if you go in early, okay? Now, this is one of the investments that didn't do well for me. It's not always rainbows and unicorns. So like, for example, this entire pile over here is where I literally bought out all of the different Eternals from number 2, number 3, all the way number 10. Like the first 10 appearances of Eternals in 1976. Because I thought that all these first appearances where there's Angelina Jolie and all of them is going to be huge. But it didn't go up that much, okay? It will still go up, but again, it really depends on how big of a hit it is, okay? So how can you invest? Here's how you think about it. Think about Disney Plus, okay? Disney Plus, now that they own Marvel, they're funding all these different series. So all the different series that they're working towards, you want to think about, well, if they have an entire series on it, wouldn't you agree that chances are they are going to be an A-list celebrity or a A-list hero right, when the movie comes out. So the example that I would give you is, so for example, like She-Hulk, right? Why did I buy She-Hulk a couple of years back? When we all know, right, She-Hulk is not as popular, but again, it's because Disney, right, is backing it up and they're having a series on it, right? Same thing with the first appearance of Miss Marvel. So what I would do is I would buy these comics, the first appearance, which is the only one that really matter, when I know that Disney is working towards that angle. And I'll show you a few different ways to predict that with really good accuracy as well. So when I knew that they were creating like WandaVision, right? This is the first appearance of Scarlet Witch back in 1964. And same thing, right? If you take a look at all these different prices, you'll see that they all spike up. It's always the same thing, right? You always go through these three phases. Number one, when a movie is announced. Number two, when a trailer drops. And number three, when the actual movie or series drops. Okay, so it always follows these three price patterns. So the question is, how can we get in before all of that? Okay, so a good way, okay, is to start seeing the direction. Okay, so for example, this is Marvel Phase 5. Okay, you can see by the time this video drops, or maybe by the time you're watching this video, Ant-Man would have already come out. So no spoilers over here. I haven't watched this movie yet because this movie is not out yet. But again, you can see that, you know, Kang the Conqueror is going to be a supervillain. So I have brought out, you know, the different first appearances of Kang the Conqueror. This is from way back because I know that, you know, he's going to be a supervillain. Just like, you know, Thanos, before he was Thanos, before the world knew he was Thanos. In fact, come follow me over here. You'll see that this is what I do, right? So for example, I knew that the Infinity Gauntlet series is going to be hit, you know, because of Thanos, right? So based on the different phases, phase 5 and 6, I know that there's going to be secret wars. There is going to be secret invasion. I knew that Disney Plus wanted to or had plans to create an entire secret series based on Armor Wars, and in fact they want to make a movie on it, and now we're going to learn about, you know, Riri Williams and all of that. Now, here's the thing. There's, as nerdy as I am, there's a lot of nerds that knows the story and all of that way, way, way more than me. In the grand scheme of things, I probably know 3% of what these major nerds really know. So what I do is, I'll show you a few different sites that I use as well. What I will do is, so these are ungraded, unslabbed comics. This is where I would actually, you know, buy them to read. When you read them, definitely, you know, it's not going to be 9.8 anymore. So it's a bit different between the ones that you can, again, there's different ways of collecting. If you're just starting out and capital is an issue, you don't have to be collecting 9.8s, you can be collecting the 5.0s, or you can even be collecting the ones that is ungraded, and the ones that's ungraded would be, you know, significantly less than the ones that's graded. Okay, so how can you predict and invest in comics? By understanding the direction Disney Plus and Marvel's taking them. Notice how all of my collection over there are based on the ones that's not yet released. Okay, so coming back to phase 5 over here, you can see that I'm not going to advise you to go into phase 5. Why? Because the hype is already there, right? I want to take a look at a much more distant future. Phase 6, for example. Okay. Now there are some sort of hints to phase 6. We know that, take a look at this, right? There's Avengers Secret Wars. But the question is, like, Avengers Secret Wars is like so wide and huge. Who's going to be the new hero, this new supervillain in phase 6? So this is where you need to utilize tools where the other nerds and the people in the community would know, you know, where to hit it, okay? Who the superheroes are most likely going to be, the supervillains. And here's the thing, even if they're wrong, it's going to be the case that some point, one day, Marvel is still going to eventually create a movie on it. Why? Because everything, all the movies that they create is going to be based on the comics in one variation or another, right? So even the speculation of who the next big superhero or supervillain is going to be, even if it's wrong, it just means that maybe it's phase 6 or phase 7, maybe it's phase 8, right? So this is where I know that, so I utilize there's a lot of apps out there that, you know, where it speculates what type of movie or comic is going to be released. So I use this app. One of the apps that I use is called Key Collector, and from here I can see that, oh, the next movie is going to be Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Marvels, and when I click on it, I can actually see, okay, based on the Ant-Man and the Wasp, these are all of the notable comics that is inside that storyline, right? So I can see, oh, this is the first appearance of Yellow Claw. This is the first appearance of Krylar, right? Now, again, if you've not watched the movie, you know, these heroes may or may not have a very big role in that movie, but this is how I can start seeing who these people are. Like first appearance of MODOK, which I know was inside the trailer, so probably he'll have a bigger role in that movie, right? First appearance of Yellow Jacket. Take a look at this. So this comic over here, guess what? It's this comic over here, right? First appearance of the Pharaoh Ramatat that was later revealed to be Kang the Conqueror. Okay, so if you follow this principle and invest in comics over time, over 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you won't just have pretty things to look at, but also it becomes an actual collection, an actual alternative asset that, to me, I can tell you that a lot of real estate, for sure, that's one, like none of them had a 10 to 20x return. Stocks, it's hard to say, it's hard to get these type of home runs, but with these type of assets, you can do it with a lot more certainty and predictability, with the downside of it not being as liquid. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know in the comments if you liked it, if you didn't enjoy it, what type of videos would you like to see more? Maybe you want me to go more in depth. Here's my game plan for this type of series, if it's a hit, if you guys are enjoying it. So here's my game plan. I want to talk more about watches. I want to talk more about collectibles, cards, and how, you know, I started Magic the Gathering in a really early stage as well, and what got me into the world of like figurines, and how this is also another entire game of its own. Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoy this type of video, subscribe to the channel, like the video as well. It does help this channel out by supporting it, and I'll see you in future videos.